In today's video, I'm going to be quickly taking you through 5 tools that I've purchased over the years that are totally useless in my shop and I've only used once or not at all, and they've been collecting dust. Okay guys, so I'm going to clear the deck right now. We're going to start with the number 5 tool and we're going to work our way down to the number 1 biggest regretful purchase that I made, and I'm going to start with number 5 right now. So let's clear this deck. And just real quick, if you hear thunder in the background, it's storming here, so disregard that. Let's get started with this countdown from number 5 to number 1 right now. Okay, so like I said, number 5 being the least regretful purchase and number 1 being the most regretful. So we're going to start here first with the quick rapid clamp from Festool. I'm going to get you a little closer here so you can see what this is. Okay, so this is a 2-piece system. This is Festool's rapid clamp, and what the function of this is supposed to be is one side of the rapid clamp with this lever slides onto the bottom of one of the guide rails, or some people call them a track. So you put it on the guide rail, you tighten up the lever, and you have this trigger here and this release mechanism, right? So this side here is the stop, and what you do is you position this on the other end of the guide rail, and then you have your workpiece in between. And what you do is then tighten this up, and you tighten this up on the guide rail, and then you pump the trigger and it locks it in place, and so it holds, essentially holds the workpiece underneath the track, and then you make a cut and it's not supposed to move when you position it on your line. You hit this button here and it makes the release like that, and it releases it from the workpiece. It has a rounded edge right here so that you can make angle cuts and clamp it on the workpiece on an angle so that it's not a hard 90. So if you were to place your track on this side of the workpiece like this diagonally, or this side diagonally, you'd be able to still clamp it in place, essentially. Now, I absolutely don't like it. I find that it does not stay in place and it doesn't really do the trick for me. I would rather position my rail on top of the workpiece, the guide rail right on top of the line, and just use the quick clamps underneath, or the ratchet clamps, whatever you want to call them. Click those in place, and that's how, or not even clamp it at all, just hold it down with my hand and run it through. So I've never had a problem laying the track on there and using the sticky strips of the track to hold it down and make my cut. So for me, this is a number 5 on the list of regretful purchases. So I would never purchase this again, and I may even just sell it. That being said, I don't use it, and you certainly don't need it. You see, I have 2 sanders here, one off to my left. This is the one that I use every day. Number 4 on the list of regretful purchases is this DeWalt palm sander, or random orbital sander. And let me tell you the reason that it was a regretful purchase. When I sand any of my workpieces, the dust collection on this is mediocre. Even when you have a good dust collection, it just really doesn't suck up all the dust, the sawdust that it leaves on top of the workpiece. And as you go back and forth, it digs it deeper and deeper into the workpiece, making more scratches. However, that being said, the number 1 reason that I despise these sanders is because of the vibration. It is absolutely terrible. And even if you have an adjustable speed, which this one does not have an adjustable speed on it. Even if you turn the speed down a little bit, you still have a terrible vibration here. Now, when you do a project and you finish the project, you're going to be sanding for hours at a time on a large project, and sometimes half an hour on a small project, or 45 minutes to an hour on a small project too. So what I suggest is invest in a good random orbital sander, because there is virtually no vibration. This is the Mirka. It's the Dextros or the Dexos, something like that. I will link all of these tools in the description so you can see what I'm talking about when I reference another tool. So the Mirka is 10 times the sander that this ever will be. So this not only sands rapidly, it has a digital speed control on it. The dust collection is amazing, and it's easy to change the pad. And when you're done sanding with this, even after I've sanded up to 2 hours, and my hand was not numb, as after sanding 20 minutes with this, my hand was tingling and it felt like it fell asleep. So get yourself a good sander. Don't waste your money on something like this, because it's just going to lead you to wind up buying this later on. Number 3 on the list is the Triton Dovetail Jig. Now, this is a great jig, and it does work phenomenal when it's cutting the when you're cutting the dovetails with this thing. When you have it set right, it is absolutely phenomenal, and the dovetails are spot on. Problem is, number 1, I don't do dovetails very often. Even as a cabinet maker, not many people are requesting dovetail drawers anymore, so I do domino drawers, and they're just as strong and they come out 10 times faster. The setup on this is very tedious, and you can see by the sawdust on it. I used it on one project to make drawers, and I believe it was I think it was the loft bed. I did dovetail drawers on that, and then I never used it again. And so it's been sitting in a corner of my shop collecting dust. So now if you do small boxes and you do a lot of dovetails and you're not hand cutting those dovetails, then you could get away with, you know, purchasing a jig like this. But I will tell you, there are other jigs on the market that are a quicker, simpler setup than the Porter cable. Just making a drawer box with this was so tedious for the initial setup that by the time I was done actually cutting a test piece, I didn't even want to make any more dovetails. So I'm sure there's simpler ways out there. All right, so this was number 3 on the list, and any tools that you see me here on this list talking about, I'm going to be selling. So look for that on Facebook Marketplace. Okay, number 2 on the list. This is the Triton doweling machine, and honestly, this I used it once on one project, which I believe was the dog gates that I built. And then I tried to use it on a secondary project, and the problem is with this jig is a few things. Number one, the dust collection is not even mediocre at best. There is, you know, almost no catching any dust with this thing whatsoever as you're plunging into the material. It's very, very stiff to plunge into the material. The fence adjustments, they are easy. However, no matter how you square this thing, once you're putting the joints together, they don't line up. The surfaces are not flush. So the holes will line up, and you can put the dowels in there, and once you push it together, the two surfaces will be uneven. And after making a bunch of joints and having all of them be proud of one another and having to sand them flush, I said this is definitely not worth it, and I never used it again, and I bought a domino mainly because of this reason. You definitely do not need this tool, especially if you don't want to do any extra work. So that brings us to number 1, the most regretful purchase that I made. I think it was about 6 years ago, roughly, where I made a farm table, and I used this system for the joinery, because at that time, 6 years ago, I did not have a Festool Domino, and I bought this Beadlock System. So basically, this is a joinery system where you take this humongous plate right here, and you loosen the knob, you put your workpiece in there, and then you use this drill with the stop collar to drill out a series of holes. Then you are able to fit what's called beadlock dowel inside of that mortise that you made. So it seemed like a good idea at the time for the fact that I did not have a domino, and so I used this to make the breadboard ends. So that was 4 mortises on each side, so that was 8 beadlock joints, and then the pedestals, the trestle pedestals, I used for the middle of the trestle to go down into the base. That was 2 trestle pedestals, so that was a total of 10 mortises. And I can tell you, after drilling in all those mortises and fitting those pieces together, yes, I did have everything lined up because I took my time with it, but from a production standpoint, which I do this professionally, so I cannot afford to take the time to manually drill out these things. It took hours to do it. It's just not productive, not efficient at all. This tool is more suited for a weekend woodworker or a hobbyist that just makes a couple of joints here and there and doesn't want to spend the money on a domino. This could be a decent alternative. But for me, no good. This is number 1 on the list, and this will definitely be going up for sale. Okay guys, so that's it. There's my top 5 of tools that I would never purchase again, and I really want you guys to take a closer look. If you are looking into purchasing stuff like this, make sure that you really need it and there is a better alternative out there if you in fact do. So that's my list, and I'm sticking to it. I wish I never bought these things, and now I gotta go and put them on the internet to sell them. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like videos like this. I have a lot more videos to come. If you are not a subscriber, then I hope you enjoyed this video and you will consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you are already a subscriber, then make sure you hit that picture of a notification bell. That will notify you every time I upload a new video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys take this into consideration when choosing tools, especially if you are a new woodworker or carpenter and you need to start building your tool collection. pay attention to things like this, because this will help you build an arsenal of tools that you won't waste your money on in the long run. All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks for joining me in the shop today, and I will see you next time.